What is up, critics? In this video, we'll be discussing the nerf that was added to the Oppressor Mk2 for this brand new The Criminal Enterprises update. Now, the Mk2, of course, arguably the most popular weaponized vehicle in game, used by both grinders and notably griefers as well. So, firstly, let's discuss the countermeasures. Both the chaff and flares have reduced capacity and replenishment as well. So before the nerf, the capacity was 20 flares with a 3-second cooldown between each deployment. Now, after the nerf, the capacity was cut in half to 10 flares with a 10-second cooldown between each deployment. And as for the effectiveness of the flare itself distracting oncoming missiles, it seems about the same to me before and after the nerf, except for the capacity and cooldown, of course. Continuing to the chaff countermeasure, which is arguably the most popular of the two, before the nerf, the capacity was 10 chaffs with a 10-second cooldown between each deployment. Now, after the nerf, the capacity was cut in half to only 5 chaffs, and the cooldown was doubled to 20 seconds between each deployment, so that's pretty crazy there. And as for the effectiveness and how long it blocks the lock-on for, Rockstar left that unchanged. It still blocks the lock-on for about 5 seconds before and after the nerf. Now let's get into the homing missiles. So starting off with capacity, that has remained unchanged. Before the nerf it was 20 missiles, and after the nerf it's still 20 missiles. Now in terms of fire rate, that has also remained unchanged as well. And in terms of lock-on distance, that still remains the same as well at just under 1,000 feet. Also, the angle of the homing lock-on has been reduced as well, so now you have to be more angled towards your target in order for it to lock on. But honestly, it's not that big of a change. You can still lock onto targets at very reasonable angles. So you might be wondering, what did they exactly change with the homing missiles? Well, they basically changed the tracking and accuracy of the missiles so that they have a higher chance of missing targets that are constantly changing direction. So before the nerf, the homing missiles on the Mk2 were one of the best in the game, even better than most aircrafts. Now obviously they weren't as good as the Ruiner 2000, for example, but they were still up there. They were really good homing missiles because they could change direction very quickly and corner at ridiculous angles, making it almost impossible to miss your target, especially if you shot more than one, which most players did anyways. But now, after the nerf, the accuracy and the ability to change directions quickly is not as good anymore on the homing missiles, and it's pretty similar to the ones on the Buzzard, where it can't make direction changes as quickly or sharp turns either. But depending on the angle at which you shoot, it can still take pretty aggressive angles. But honestly, if you're spamming missiles like most players, you're still gonna get at least one to hit the target. I'd say 1 in every 5 is probably gonna hit a target that you're chasing. So, I mean, what did this really change? I don't know. It's not like most players just shoot one missile and they're like, oh, I missed. Oh man, let me try again as I pause here for a second. No, most players just spam it. They just hold the button and boom, 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 constant shooting. So, I mean, I really don't see the effectiveness in this that much, especially since the capacity is still the same at 20 missiles. Now let's say they would have reduced the capacity to 10 missiles, then that makes more sense. But all they did was just change the tracking of the missiles and the angle in which you can lock on. Now in terms of the maneuverability of the Mk2 and the speed, that remains unchanged as well. So again, all Rockstar changed was the capacity and cooldown of the countermeasures, the tracking of the homing missiles, and the angle in which you can lock on. Now in terms of what I personally think of this, honestly, again, definitely a step in the right direction, but I think the Oppressor Mk2 is still a bit overpowered. I really feel like Rockstar should have changed the fire rate of the missiles so that there's more of a delay between shots, and also reduce the capacity of missiles to 10 instead of 20, and maybe even also reduce the damage of the homing missiles as well, so that it takes 2 missiles to destroy a car, for example, with 100% armor instead of 1 missile. That would have definitely made it more balanced and a little less overpowered, but at least they tried something so that the missiles are less accurate, but if you're shooting more than one, you're still gonna hit your target. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of the changes Rockstar made, and if you would have done any other changes to the nerfs like what I mentioned or something similar. Anyways guys, hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.